Welcome to the Football Forecast, your ultimate guide to the NFL week ahead. Get ready as we dive deep into the biggest matchups, analyze key player performances, and break down the strategies that could make or break your favorite team's chances. Whether you're looking to dominate your fantasy league, make smart picks and bets, or simply stay ahead of the game, we've got you covered with insights and predictions. So buckle up, football fans. It's time to get your game face on for another action-packed week in the NFL. While only one team can hoist the trophy at the end, it all starts with the forecast. All right, welcome back to the Football Forecast here on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. The NFL season, regular season, is officially over. And I didn't think I'd be saying that so soon, or it feels like so soon, because 18 weeks flies by really fast. Make sure you follow us on social media at TFB Forecast, ETB, across all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, as I said, at TFB Forecast, ETB. Follow our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. We are very close to 900 subscribers, and we want to get to 1,000. We have a lot of plans, so help us out. Like and subscribe. Also, if you can't watch on the video side, listen to the Football Forecast wherever you get your podcasts. Basically, anywhere you can physically get audio, we are probably on there. So find us there as well. The Football Forecast is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience, from playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators or communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. We got a little surprise, and it was a nice surprise for a change. We are going to be watching college football on Playback. So what are we doing? We're going to do Ohio State, Texas.
Yep.
So we have quite a few guys here that are going to be taking part in that. So like I said, playback.tv/ETB Network. Come join our community, and we'll be doing a watch along of, was that a semifinal game?
Yep.
Yes.
Semifinal to go to the national championship. It's the Cotton Bowl, so it should be a good one.
And I did find out, hopefully, we do have access to the national championship feed, so maybe we can try and do that. I think that's on January 20th, right?
That's correct. Down in Atlanta. Yep.
So we got plans. So just pay attention to our social medias. You'll find out more. All right. So, Johnny, you want to kind of set the scene where we are?
Yeah, absolutely. And first, let's welcome Kanan to the Football Forecast. Kanan, good to see you.
I see it.
I'll tell you what, we put more super than the actual wild card now with full house here. So two things real quick. Number one, I mean, we're in the middle of maybe the best 5-day stretch of sports that we'll have all season, with the 2 college football playoff semifinals and then the 3 days of wild card action leading into all of that. So we're right smack dab in the middle of that, number one. And number two, got to start again on another serious note here. Obviously, our thoughts and prayers with everybody out in the Los Angeles, the Palisades area, out there in California. Just it's absolutely heartbreaking what's happening there with the fires. I'll tell you personally, I was actually watching a live stream. Call me crazy if you want, but I'm an av geek. So one of the many talents that I like, one of the things I like is plane spotting. Well, there's this YouTube channel that I was watching on Tuesday, and that big Palisades fire broke out while that guy was on the air. So it was awful to see that, and the conditions out there have been so bad. And one of the reasons why I bring that up is that also does have another sports angle into it. We've had the LA Kings hockey game postponed on Wednesday. We had the Lakers basketball game postponed on Thursday. And obviously, we have a big Monday night game between the Vikings and the Rams at SoFi Stadium, which is just east of LAX and 15 miles from where this major fire started. So we're doing this right now, not knowing if this game is going to happen at SoFi Stadium. the NFL's contingency plan is, if it does not happen, that the game will be moved to State Farm Stadium in Arizona. So obviously, we're thinking of everybody there. Obviously, there have been a lot of resources that have been put to fighting this and helping everybody that's been affected by it. And that could be one of the many reasons why the game is moved to Arizona, because although you don't want to be taking away the resources that are using to help people and help put out that fire and contain everything, moving to the football game on Monday. So we will see what happens here. I would imagine probably by after this premiere or the latest Saturday, we'll know what the situation is with that game. Mm-hmm. But on a much lighter note, usually, we try and have sports to distract us from all the troubles, but this is the second straight week now where the trouble is actually having an impact on sports. But nevertheless, guys, we'll try and get ready here for an unbelievable weekend of sports action right smack dab in the middle of it. We're on right now just as the Penn State Notre Dame game is about to kick off. Obviously, as Nick said, we'll have a playback stream of the Ohio State Texas game on Friday night, and then of course wild card game starting on Saturday. So we all ready to do this, guys?
Let's go.
All right, let's do this thing. And Nick, let's start with you. We start with Ian Eagle, Charles Davis, and Evan Washburn on CBS as we go to NRG Stadium in Houston. Justin Herbert and the Chargers against CJ Stroud and the Texans, and it's the Chargers, a 3-point favorite.
This is an interesting one because this is a battle of quarterbacks going, I guess you could say, in two different directions a little bit. CJ Stroud, the Texans, kind of not going the exact direction, even though they won, because Week 18 is just a wild card. We all thought the Texans were going to lose. They win in convincing fashion, by the way. The Chargers, everyone's going to be watching the Chargers. I think they're going to be a dark horse in this playoffs. I don't know if the Texans are 100% healthy. That's another question I have too. So, as much as I hated Justin Herbert at the beginning of this year, and I had a huge problem with Herbert, I'm actually going to take the Chargers to cover.
Okay. Zan?
Yeah, I like the Chargers to cover here too. I think they have a bit more the momentum. They play, obviously, and at least in my opinion, in a much tougher division than the Texans do. And there's just something about the Texans at home most years. It's usually a letdown spot for them in the first round, and they're playing a Chargers team that I think is hungry and motivated to get some respect. And as Nick just alluded to, I think that Justin Herbert is going to be the difference. Give me the Chargers to win and cover on the road and advance to the divisional playoffs.
Kanan, welcome aboard. What do you have here?
I'm also taking the Chargers to cover. I think they looked really strong with McConkey and Herbert. I feel like they've been doing very well recently. I think if those two keep doing what they're doing, then they should have the game.
Anthony?
Yeah, I think the Chargers, the way Jim Harbaugh builds his team, is absolutely perfect for playoff football. He always has a great defense. He loves to make the opposing quarterback uncomfortable, and he loves to make his quarterback comfortable, keeping the ball clean, winning the turnover battle, and then running the ball down your throat. And with the Texans, I mean, their offensive line hasn't been that good, and that's a bad matchup going up against the Chargers with Khalil Mack and those guys. And then you look at the Chargers secondary. They have a great secondary, and they have a great cornerback group. I think they'll be able to key on Nico Collins, obviously try to key on Joe Mixon, and I just don't think the Texans right now are playing like a playoff caliber team. They obviously got in there because their division is so weak. And that's the only reason why the Texans made the playoffs is because of their weak division. So give me the Chargers to win and cover.
Grant.
I have to agree with everything Anthony just said. I mean, he hit it spot on. I mean, he was very detailed in his answer. And I mean, the Chargers are just, I think, just have the more well-round built team. So I'm going to take the Chargers to win and cover also.
Ben.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chargers here too. I mean, there's been the tendency with the Chargers in the last couple of years when they've been making the playoffs in which they've been known as the chokers. But we also have to look at it as their coaching that they had throughout the regular season wasn't great either. I mean, Brandon Staley, a lot of people weren't expecting Brandon Staley to be a great coach in the playoffs. Now you bring in Jim Harbaugh, and the whole entire thing about Harbaugh is not only he comes in, he's a great coach, but he brings in a culture as well too. And I think that culture is really good to translate over into big time games. And not saying D'Amico Ryans isn't a bad coach, but like Anthony was mentioning about the matchups, right? The offensive line for the Texans, it hasn't been great all year. As pretty much has been shown, they've had a ton of injuries, and the defense for the defensive line for the Chargers has been absolutely phenomenal. And the way that the offense for the Chargers have been playing between the run game, between the passing game, it's really hard to bet against the Chargers right now. So I'm going to go with the Chargers here to take the money.
Pat.
I don't like the Chargers in this game, but I feel like I'm going to have to end up taking them just because the Texans have looked so bad. If the Texans maybe weren't coming in so cold to this playoff game, I love them here +3 against the Chargers, but I just can't put any faith in that team I've been watching play these past couple weeks, and the Chargers did end the season fairly hot, so I think I'll just have to ride with the momentum with the Chargers.
Yeah, I feel everybody's and we're your sentiment, Pat, and I know I already went in earlier, but I just wanted to say you were 1,000% right on that front, and you just never know what Houston Texans team you're going to get, and you're right. The inconsistency is a huge question mark. 100%.
Yeah, I just feel like it's a trap game.
Ooh, now I'm nervous about doing this. Oh boy. Yeah, I'm totally on the Chargers. I absolutely am minus the 3 because I mean let's look at these two teams. Compare them for years past, because just this time, Justin Herbert's a more confident, more efficient quarterback. The coaching, you guys have mentioned it, much better than the last time they were in the playoffs. Remember, the last time they were in the playoffs, they blew a 27-point lead to the Jaguars. You know who else is different from their last playoff appearance? C.J. Stroud and the Texans. They've sputtered down the stretch here. Their offense has really fallen off since the middle of November. They're missing a lot of key receivers throughout the year. Their offensive line has not been good. I will tell you, though, the matchup I'm interested to watch in this game Saturday is the offensive lineman for the Chargers, Slater and Alt, and the edge rushers against the edge rushers for the Texans, Neil Hunter, Will Anderson Jr. But I think when I'm looking at these two teams and the directions that they're going, I'm gonna lay the 3 of the Chargers, and this will be my lock of the week. I am taking the Chargers. Yeah, I of all the games, it's just the most confident I am to put the lock on. So I will lay them and take the Chargers to advance out of Wild Card Weekend. Before we move on, I have one interesting question. We can go around real quick. Nick, I'll start with you. Who do you think this game is more important for, Herbert or Stroud?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's more important for Stroud, actually, in his development, because he he did take a dip in this year when he played. Everyone was expecting him to just have a trajectory up and just keep going and getting better. He looked flat the whole year. Now, it's not his fault completely. Joe Mixon missed at least 4 or 5 games, and he lost some receivers. His offensive line was a little bit of a mess. So I can't blame him completely, but he did take a dip. So I'd say this game is more important for C.J. Stroud, but I think also to keep a positive stretch, it's also important for Herbert, too.
Mm-hmm. Zan, real quick, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say it's more important for Stroud, too, because at least to me, he hasn't had that one signature game where I felt like, okay, the Texans have really found their guy for the foreseeable future, and I think he has a chance to prove us all wrong. So I would say this game is more important for Stroud than it is for Herbert. Just considering also the fact, too, that, with Jim Harbaugh, there and likely there for the long term, they'll have several years of experience under their belt to where they'll be making the playoffs and contending for the AFC West Division title numerous times. So even if somehow, someway, Herbert loses a heartbreaker, you can't fully fault him for what the Chargers are trying to build for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years. So that's how I look at it.
And Kanan, what do you think here?
I'm gonna kind of have to disagree. I think this is more important for Herbert because he's the older guy. He's been in the league a little longer, and we know he's a good player. He's done amazing things and amazing plays. But the one thing we got to see is him win in the playoffs and take it all the way.
Anthony, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm right there with Kanan. I absolutely agree. I mean, we're talking about who the game's more important for. How could it not be the guy who doesn't have a playoff win? I mean, CJ Stroud already has a playoff win. Justin Herbert doesn't. I mean, the guy's been in the league just as long as Joe Burrow, just as long as Jalen Hurts, and he doesn't have one signature playoff win. And his one playoff appearance was a comeback that the Jacksonville Jaguars came back and beat him. So I think it has to be Justin Herbert.
Yeah. Grant, you agree with that?
I mean, this is hard because I think it's important for both. I don't necessarily want to give an answer to a certain team because I mean with what Zan said I mean I like to I mean I'm just gonna say it after the Bears played the Texans, and they met at midfield with C.J. Stroud and Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams was playing on the up and up, and C.J. Stroud kind of played down. But I can't give a definitive answer because I think it's important for both.
That's fair. Ben?
I'm going to go. I mean, both. I mean, I can obviously attest to, but I think it's more to Herbert because CJ Stroud, we kind of saw a sophomore slump that happens to a lot of the better of the quarterbacks. And he pretty much last year, you pretty much had a feeling he wasn't going to replicate basically regardless of what the offense is going to be. Very similar to what's going to happen next year. It's just going to happen. A lot of quarterbacks regress that way. And you look at Herbert too. Herbert obviously hasn't had – I mean, there's been a lot of chatter with him in the past about how he hasn't had everything right with him. It's either been not enough weapons and not enough coaching. Now he basically has all that ready for him. He has a great guy in Ron McConkey. He has a great running game. He has a really good defense, and he has the right coach. So I think that when you look at this specifically, I'm going to go with Herbert because there's really no excuse specifically for Herbert not to get the job done because he has everything with him. With Stroud – he already won a playoff game like Anthony tested to last year. You knew for a fact he was going to have a sophomore slump. I know for a fact with CJ Stroud is he's going to bounce back from this. There's a ton of things I think right now with him that it's kind of really hard to kind of just blame it all on him right now because not everything's kind of with him. I mean, Stephon Diggs isn't there. Tank Dell's not with him. So, yeah, obviously, injuries are going to happen. But Justin Herbert with a healthier team, I feel like there's more pressure for him to get the job done because he has everything ready for him to go.
Yeah. Pat, what do you think?
I don't even think it's a question. I think it has to be Herbert. I mean, like Anthony said, he's been in the league for so much longer. He doesn't have a playoff win. I don't even know how this is a debate. Justin Herbert needs this win. CJ Stroud will be fine without it.
Yeah, I'll pretty much echo everything that you, Anthony, and Ben said. So we kind of disagree on that, but we do all agree that the Chargers will win and advance out of this round. Zan, to the night game on Saturday. It is, in fact, an Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, Kaylee Hartung special on Amazon Prime Video. For the third time this season, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Baltimore Ravens, this time, once again, at M&T Bank Stadium. And it's the Ravens laying 9.5.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with this Steelers team. They just look completely off the last several weeks. Had a chance to win the division, beat themselves by doing so. And now that ask us to go to a hostile M&T Bank Stadium against a Ravens team that I don't think could be playing much better football than really any of these playoff teams at present. I think this game smells recipe for a disaster for Pittsburgh, and unless the offense plays lights out and unless there's no critical mistakes made, I think the Ravens should be able to get this done. I was tempted to make this my lock of the week. I'm not going to. I'm going to go a little bit more conservative and just say that the Ravens cover the spread. But I think the questions surrounding Mike Tomlin and what his future in Pittsburgh could look like, I think is something to monitor. I've been a huge Mike Tomlin defender on this program going back to the days of Football Friday, but there's been some sort of inconsistency with this Steelers team that I can't figure out. And having to go on the road in the playoffs instead of hosting a playoff game, which is what should be the scenario, it's not. I think it's a huge red flag. So give me the Ravens to ride the wave, maintain the momentum, and protect home field.
Okay, so you've got him laying the 9.5. Okay, Kanan, what do you have?
I'm gonna have to agree with Zan there. I have the Ravens 9.5. I like the Pittsburgh Steelers, but like what he said, their weapons haven't been clicking. They're gonna have to rely on Najee Harris, and he's known to make some costly mistakes. So I'm taking the Ravens.
Yeah, and
to cover the spread.
especially on the road in pressure environment, and like that, if Najee Harris makes one mistake, that entire offense could spiral out of control immediately. So
Anthony?
Yeah, I think, when we talk about pressure and what quarterback has the most pressure, Lamar Jackson's got to be right up there. I know Josh Allen doesn't have a Super Bowl win, but when you look at his numbers are actually better in the playoffs than the regular season, where Lamar Jackson are not so much. Definitely struggles in the playoffs and doesn't play as good as he does in the regular season. It almost reminds me of Peyton Manning years ago, where Peyton Manning would have these MVP caliber seasons, and then come to the playoffs, he wouldn't play nearly as good as he can be. Now, Lamar Jackson obviously now has Derrick Henry, so that should take some of the pressure off. And I think this is the year where he's going to try to prove something and prove that he can play in the playoffs as well as he does in the regular season. And the way the Steelers team is going, it's just like the Texans. They don't seem like a playoff caliber team right now. The Steelers had such a great record at the beginning of the season. That's why they were able to, even though on this losing streak, still be able to squeeze into one of these final playoff spots. But I think Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry is going to be way too much. I think the Ravens, ever since they moved Kyle Hamilton more to play more safety, the defense has played a lot better. So now with this defense playing good and their offense playing good, you've seen why they had 9 Pro Bowlers, which is the most in the league. So give me the Ravens to win and cover. And I know it's a large point spread, but that's going to be my lock of the week.
Grant.
Yeah, I'm gonna compliment everything that everyone else has said before me. I'm not gonna make this my lock of the week, but the Ravens will win this and they'll cover. So, it's the Steelers just haven't had great momentum, and they beat themselves last week, which honestly I thought they were gonna win. So I don't know why they didn't, but I'm going to take the Ravens to win and cover.
By the way, shout out to you, Anthony, because you were the one that did the Lions as your lock of the week last week, and it did pretty well.
Yep. Ben Cruz, what do you have?
Yeah, so I are going to go kind of off the rack in terms of the picks here, but with the way that the Steelers have played in terms of defensively against Lamar Jackson, their defense, when you look at all the defenses against Lamar Jackson, they're the toughest one that Lamar Jackson always faces. It doesn't matter how good that the team is, the way that they're looking right now. Another factor, too, is one of Lamar Jackson's main targets, Zay Flowers, is out for this game. So I think that takes a ton of pressure off, specifically the Steelers' defense here. One thing specifically, though, with the reason why I'm having the Ravens to win this one, and shout out to NFL Live from watching it this week, is the Ravens use a ton of motion, and the Steelers defensively, communication-wise, are awful with motion. And you basically actually saw tape about that in the last time they faced the two teams in Baltimore. So, between Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, Lamar Jackson, I still think it's going to be enough where they're going to use a ton of their running attack outside of their passing attack. So with that being said, I'm going to go with the Ravens here, but I think that this number is too much. I'm going to go with the Ravens here, no cover. And I picked this actually last time the Ravens-Steelers played. I know that the Steelers obviously haven't been playing great the last couple of weeks, and their offense hasn't been playing great. But I think that their defense plays good enough where they're going to make it tough on Lamar Jackson. And without one of their main weapons there in Zay Flowers, I think it's going to be in a touchdown type of game because it's always a division type of game. It's always going to be close. Playoff atmosphere. Ravens-Steelers, no cover.
Pat.
So I always get weird sketched out with division games, especially when the team that's supposed to lose by a lot has a really good defense. But I think their momentum is killed. They're just in such a bad spot at this point. I do think they kind of keep it close. So the 9.5, it does make me want to pull the no cover a little bit. But I think the Ravens might squeak it out and just maybe win by like 14 at the end, 13, something like that, with maybe a late score to put it out of reach.
Okay. Got the money. Zan, if you're Mike Tomlin Defender 1, I'm Mike Tomlin Defender 1A. I've echoed him a lot, and I think this team is completely overachieved this year for what they have to deal with. I mean,
Very well said.
right?
That's the exact right word to describe this team. They are the biggest overachievers in the entire NFL this season, 1,000%.
I mean, the quarterback play has not. I mean, the quarterback play has been well. I mean, but T.J. Watt didn't really have had a good year, but he didn't have a year like T.J. Watt from T.J. Watt's standards. But I feel like the easy play here, and I understand why, is to lay the 9.5 with the Ravens, because since week 15 they've been arguably the hottest team in the league, and the Steelers have not. I think this number though is too bloated. I'm with Ben. I'm taking the Steelers plus 9.5. But I do think the Ravens are going to win this. Look, I mean, there's definitely a mental angle to the Ravens because, like Anthony said, the talk about Lamar Jackson winning a big game in a big spot in the playoffs is definitely there. But the one thing he's got Derrick Henry, which is what he did not have last year in that AFC Championship game against the Chiefs, was a running attack. That would have helped tremendously if those two ever meet up again this year. But I just feel like the number is too bloated. And, Mike Tomlin is the greatest coach, I feel like, when it comes to cashing in as an underdog, especially in divisional matchups. And again, this is the third time this year that these two are playing each other. I think that does make a difference. And I think you have to factor that in when you're making this pick. The way that I feel like the Steelers are going to make this game close is they have to play like they did the first time, which is making an extremely ugly kind of game. And the Steelers have been the Ravens' kryptonite, and I think there is a mental angle to that. And I'll tell you right now, I'll go out there and make a bold prediction. I think Mike Tomlin should put Justin Fields in at some point and draw up some packages and some plays for him and get him involved in this game. I think that would be a great way to do it. I'm not saying to start, but I'd say put him in there, draw up some plays, draw up some packages for him, and see what you can do. He's very athletic. Go up against that defense, which I know has been playing better, but can be vulnerable too. But clearly the Ravens are the better team, but I think it's too many points to lay. I think they will win, but I think the Steelers should keep this game, and they will keep this game close. What about you, Nick?
So I have the complete opposite of you. Okay. Actually, I think the Steelers are way over their head in this matchup. I think they're heading in the wrong direction. Russ looks like what he was at the beginning of the year, which was concerning and confused out there. I think the Ravens defense can do enough to bolster him out of the pocket. Whenever you force him out of the pocket, it leads to bad throws and interceptions. Like that's him going all the way back to Seattle. If you forced him out of the pocket, it just led to a lot of picks. What Kanan said about Najee Harris, if he's not working within their offensive set, they're screwed. Like they're going nowhere. They need him in the running game to have any chance against this Ravens offense to compete and score. This is going to be a battle of high offense, and they have to score. And if they don't, they're going to get trounced, I feel like. And Lamar is Lamar. But two things I should say that could go against the Ravens here. Lamar's what was it? They were saying his QB percentage goes way down in the playoffs. I think it drops by like 50% or 50%, they said, because he's not as clutch in the playoffs. And no one's mentioned Zay Flowers being out.
Ben did.
Oh, did you? Okay, sorry. But Zay Flowers, I think that's actually important because that's a big weapon for Lamar.
Yeah.
But having Lamar and having Derrick Henry, who are both, it's going to be tough to contain both of them. It's just going to be tough. It's going to be impossible almost to contain both of them. And Derrick Henry's had a resurgence of all resurgence years. So I'm taking the Ravens to cover. I'm with Anthony on this one, too. I'm taking a lot.
Interesting. So Nick and Anthony will lock the biggest number of wild card weekend down in Baltimore. To the Sunday slate, a Jim Nance, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson, Jay Feely special on CBS. Anthony, it is the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix heading to Buffalo to Highmark Stadium to face Josh Allen and your Buffalo Bills. And at Orchard Park, the Bills an 8.5-point favorite.
Yeah, now we get to talk about the real MVP because he doesn't get to have a Derrick Henry. He puts it all on his shoulders and carries the team himself. But, yeah, obviously I got to go with the Bills to win and cover. I think Bo Nix, obviously I've been a Bo Nix guy all season. If it wasn't for Jaden Daniels having potentially the greatest quarterback rookie season of all time, Bo Nix would probably be a rookie of the year in any other given year. But because of that, he'll probably finish second, but he's been tremendous. But usually where the Bills struggle is in their run defense. And I know the Broncos have this running back by committee with all those running backs that they have. I just don't think that running game scares me enough. And now the Bills are starting to get healthy. I think their secondary with Tyron Johnson, Rasul Douglas, and Christian Benford will be enough to kind of put the Broncos receivers in check. And I know the Broncos defense played good last week against the Kansas City Chiefs backups, but the end of the season kind of weak. The defense had some games where they did struggle. I think going up against Josh Allen and James Cook and Khalil Shakir, I think that's going to be a bad recipe. So I think this is going to be a big game by Josh Allen, and I think it's going to be another big game by James Cook. So give me the Bills to win and cover.
Grant.
Okay, so I gotta highlight how good Bo Nix has played. I mean, he's played great for a rookie season. Now, it definitely does help to have Sean Payton as your head coach and play caller. But because of that, I do believe the Bills will win, but I don't think they'll cover because of how good Bo Nix has been playing. So I'll take the Bills to win, but no cover.
Ben.
Yeah, when you look at this game, I mean, the Broncos obviously are coming with not a ton of expectations as they basically were down basically all season. So as they say to the Broncos, do you believe in miracles coming into this game? But regardless, I do like the Bills in this one. Got to take this into account that as great as Bo Nix has been playing, this will be his first ever playoff start. And when you're going against the MVP type of candidate in his own barn, it's just really tough to go against specifically a team like the Bills have been there, done that with the experience they've had in the playoffs, and they've been a very good team at home in the playoffs. So not only I have the Bills to win this game, and shout out to the Broncos, they've been great all season, but I actually have the Bills as my lock of the week.
Pat?
I just want to say 2 words. Davis Webb. Now, those that know that Davis Webb is actually the quarterback coach for the Broncos, and he is now getting head coaching jobs or potential head coaching jobs because of his work with Bo Nix this year. I think the coaching on that team has actually been so spectacular. I looked at that roster before the season, and I don't know if I've ever seen a worse roster on paper, genuinely. The fact that team pulled it to the playoffs and has a Bo Nix playing like a damn near Pro Bowler, I think they're going to impress. I think they're going to lose, but I think they're going to impress. Give me the Bills, but I think the Broncos make this. I think the Broncos lose by 3. I think they lose just a field goal here.
Hey, Pat, I want to say, too, that I don't know if you knew this, but Davis Webb actually used to play for the Buffalo Bills, and he actually used to be the third-string quarterback. And the reason why he was on the team, because he was so smart, he would help Josh Allen with the game plan every Sunday. So that's another interesting note to look for in this game.
Well, actually, crazy interesting note. Davis Webb played for 3 teams: the Giants, the Jets, and the Bills.
Yep.
Because of course,
all New York.
Well, the true New York teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's an excellent point. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I almost feel like I want to do the same thing, Pat. I mean, you're selling the heck out of them to keep it close. I mean, I'm wearing my Bronco orange, but I'm not doing it. No, I'm totally on the Bills minus the 8.5. And the number seems a little bloated too, but let's call a spade here, because the and I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, and I'll bring it up again. The Bronco defense has fallen apart. It's not what it was at the start of the year. It's been vulnerable since December, giving up 30-plus points and more than 6 yards per play to the Bengals, Chargers, and yes, even the Cleveland Browns. And now you go up against a rested guy in Josh Allen, who only had to play one snap even last Sunday. Now there have been teams that have been able to exploit the Bills defense, but those were the Dolphins, the Lions, and the Rams, who all have significant weapons, which the Broncos don't have. And yeah, you guys said it too. Bo Nix, unbelievable year, but you know what? A rookie quarterback going on the road into a hostile environment against a dominant team, that's a tall order, as great as he is, to do it. So I'm going to lay the 8.5, and I'm going to take the Bills there on Sunday. Nick.
This is great because this totally changed my opinion, and even Anthony changed my opinion about halfway through the season with Bo Nix, who I actually like. I think he's actually having a decent year, and like everyone has said, if it wasn't for Jaden Daniels, he's probably Rookie of the Year. I would even go that far and say he's probably Rookie of the Year. the defense is really most of what kept them in most of the season. No one expected them. What was their record? 10-7, I think. So
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
so.
what were they projected to have? 4 wins?
I think they were
Four?
4. I think they were 4.5 projection, just like Minnesota.
Their defense earned them another 5 to 6 victories on top of Bo Nix improving and becoming a better quarterback. When I look at the Bills situation also, Josh Allen has been nothing but great, like just the whole year. I do worry on and off about the injuries on his non-throwing hand and the shoulder a little bit because he gets a little banged up because sometimes the offensive line will allow him to take some hits that are unnecessary from time to time. But I want to look back and just ask something else, which is obviously the Broncos Chiefs game. Obviously, we say week 18s don't really matter. Do you think that 38-0 victory is going to hinder their progress going into the playoffs? So they won, they got in, but do they look at as a motivating victory, 38-0?
You're asking me that?
Anybody?
I'll take it. So wait, you're asking, does that game, do I take anything out of it, or?
Yeah, at all. Like, because I know they needed to win, but does that really mean anything that they won 38-0?
I think it doesn't make a difference. I don't think it does. I mean, look, they needed to win. It didn't matter who they were playing and who was there. They needed to win. They definitely got that win, but I don't think it makes a difference going into this one. I really don't.
The one thing I'll say before I make my pick is the Chiefs should be fined millions of dollars for losing that game 38-0. That was just the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen during a game. I mean, I know you had to put Carson Wentz. I know you're putting all the backups out there, but come on, compete.
You could say that about half. Well, you could say that about half the league when it comes to wrestling starters.
Imagine being a Bengals fan watching that
game. Outside of the Sunday night game and maybe one or two others, you know what week 18 has become in the NFL? Week 4 of the preseason.
No, I get it, but 38-0 and not even putting up some kind of effort on the scoreboard in some way, shape, or form, that just looked embarrassing to me.
Yeah, but I don't think there's any. I mean, I see where you're coming up from that, but I don't think there's any like fine or anything you can fine the Chiefs for that.
I'm sure you also saw like that they almost missed the deadline for getting to Denver. Also,
well, yeah, it was funny because not only was it the weather in Kansas City, but speaking of plane spotting, and I know this for a fact, their aircraft came in late from Los Angeles, which is what caused the delay in the first place, and that's why they were not able to get out right away in Kansas City. Besides the weather.
Because for most people who don't know this, there is a rule that you have to be in the opposing city, I think 24 hours before the game.
Yeah, they just made it.
So, and I'm sure the NFL would have looked past that anyway because they were not going to allow that to happen. But
another plane fast. That was part of the problem.
But long story short, the Bills are going to cover. Because like you said, Johnny, like sending a rookie quarterback on the road, that's a tall order in every way, shape, or form. Yeah. So, will it be competitive? I think so, but I think they cover.
Zan?
Yeah, I like the Bills here. I just think playing in that really tough environment, you're asking the Denver Broncos team to go cross-country for their first playoff game. And I understand that Bo Nix is in a really, really good year for his first year in the league, but this Bills team is, you could say any way you want that the Bills always play second fiddle to the Chiefs, but when you look in retrospect, this Bills team is actually pretty good. I think this is a really nice first matchup for them. I think they get it done, and I actually like them to cover the numbers. So give me the Bills minus 8.5.
And Kanan.
I don't know. I'm kind of agreeing with Pat there. Bo Nix and the Broncos. I love the story. You really counted them out in the beginning. You didn't think they were going to do much. And then, like you said, the coaching came along. Bo Nix started balling. And with that being said, I got the Bills covering the spread.
Okay. So we're all in agreement the Bills will win, but we do have some differences in terms of the spread there at Highmark Stadium. Pat, it's a Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Rinaldi special on Fox. As we go to Lincoln Financial Field, the Green Bay Packers taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Eagles a 4.5-point favorite.
If Jordan Love could play more consistent, I'd love to pick this upset. I really would, because I got it last year when they beat the Cowboys. But I don't see it happening in this one. The Eagles have just been playing way too strong right now. I know Hurts is injured, dealing with all of that. If he plays, Eagles should win this game.
He
But
was full today, so I think he'll play.
and that's what I'm basing it off. But let's say last minute something happens, Hurts gets a setback, he gets ruled out. I will change this pick to the Packers for sure. The Packers will win this game if Jalen Hurts doesn't play. But if Hurts plays, I mean, I think the Eagles are just too strong of a team to have the Packers that have been way too inconsistent really. Like, the Packers would need to play their best football to beat the Eagles, in my opinion. And I just don't know how many times they do.
Okay.
Nick?
Yeah, so this is a great matchup. And again, I think Pat has it right. It depends on if Jalen Hurts actually plays. It's not really up to the team at this point. It's up to the NFL independent to do a test on him and make sure he passes concussion protocol. So if he doesn't pass concussion protocol, it's basically a moot point anyway, and he doesn't play. The running back matchup, I think, is a great matchup and story in this game. Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley. Personally, I was a little upset that he didn't play in the game and go for the record. I thought that would have been a great story, especially, and don't take this the wrong way, two Giants fans in here, but I would have been happy if he stuck it to the Giants after what happened in the offseason.
Of course.
Well, I just think that was wrong, the way they handled it. And if he broke a record, I think that would have even showed it off even more. But it's a great matchup, like Pat said. If Jalen Hurts plays and he passes concussion protocol, this really shouldn't be a contest, in my opinion. I just think they have too many offensive weapons. I even think the defense is better than the Packers, to be quite honest. So Jalen Hurts plays, they win. If he's not there, I just think Jordan Love is going to out-throw them, I think. So I'll take the Eagles to cover at this point as long as Jalen Hurts plays.
Zan?
Yeah, so let me give you guys some fun facts first. So the Packers and Eagles, it's some very unique playoff history. First off, it's a rematch of the 2004 NFC divisional playoff game. It's also a rematch of the 1960 NFL championship game before the Super Bowl even existed. So these two teams, when it comes to the playoffs and playing each other, are synonymous with one another. With that out of the way, assuming that Jalen Hurts does play, I really do like the Eagles at home. They've been a very, very impressive team to watch all year. This is the Eagles team that should have been rolling into the playoffs at this point last year, and they laid an egg to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think this is a much better football team. I think they're a much more coordinated football team, and I think when Jalen Hurts is 100%, this is one of the best teams in football, and I actually think that if their cards are played correctly, and I know that we're only in the first weekend of the playoffs, but if things go their way, don't be surprised if this team somehow, some way ends up in the NFC Championship. But for now, give me the Eagles to win and cover as long as Jalen Hurts plays.
Hayden, what do you have?
I think even without Hurts playing, I got the Eagles. They've been awesome. They have a lot of weapons, and their defense, I like it. It was kind of shaky when they first played. It was a close game, but I think they've gotten a lot better since then. And then the Packers have not. So I think Saquon can cook. Even without Hurts, like I said, if you recall when the Giants were transitioning from Eli Daniel Jones, OBJ, and Saquon were throwing balls to each other off trick plays all the time, and they were dots. So throw him at quarterback. I got the Eagles to cover the spread.
Oh, I forgot to add, even with Hurts potentially not playing, this will actually be my lock of the week for the Eagles too.
Ooh.
Anthony?
Yeah, I know if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, you got to go with the Packers, but I got a gut feeling Jalen Hurts is going to get cleared and he is going to play. Obviously, the NFL is just going to, in general, is going to want him to play. Even if you're not an Eagles fan, if you're just an NFL fan, obviously him playing makes this game much more competitive. I also think the way this Eagles defense has finished, I really like the Eagles defense, and I really don't trust Jordan Love this year. I don't think he's going to play as good as he did last year in the playoffs. He's been turning the ball over a lot. And also, too, I think the last few weeks, I think Josh Jacobs is a little banged up. I know they used him a lot, and I'm not sure if all that usage is starting to have some wear and tear on Josh Jacobs. Now you got the injury to Christian Watson. I know they still got Reed and Romeo Doubs, so the wide receiver core is still going to be good. But I just think the Eagles defensively is way too good. I mean, with a healthy Jalen Hurts, this Eagles defense doesn't really have a weakness. You got a great defense, you got a great offensive line, 2 number 1 receivers, and a potential offensive player of the year in Saquon Barkley. So give me the Eagles to win and cover.
Just to cut in real quick with what Ant just said, if you want to look at a handbook of how a team should handle a superstar workhorse running back heading into the playoffs, go look what the Ravens did with Derrick Henry for the second half of the season, because they let Henry run wild for the middle of the season and then shut him down basically for the end of the year so that he would be able to help Lamar in the playoffs. The Packers messed up and let Jacobs run rampant right before the end of the season, and now he's going to be banged up going in. So I completely agree.
Wait. Grant, what do you have?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Me and Zan last week took the Packers as our lock of the week, because it was against the Bears that we thought were going to lose, and they somehow won. But I'm doing the opposite this week. I'm going to take the Eagles to win, no matter what, even if Hurts doesn't play. But I have like a 95%, faith that he does play. But I mean, the Eagles are just one of those powerhouse teams, and I want the Packers to be out of the playoffs as soon as possible, just because I do not like them, being a Bears fan. But yeah, the Eagles are my luck of the week. So
Ben.
Yeah, so when you look at this matchup, I know a lot of people are talking about Jalen Hurts, but he practiced today, and I mean, it'd be a shocker if he didn't play. I do think though, when I just looked at the Eagles' last 5 games, they've given up out of the 4 of the 5 games less than 20 points on their defense. So I know that some of the teams that they faced weren't great off, offensively, and some of them are backups, but the defense has been great. I know last couple of years their defense hasn't been really their strong suit. So I mean, defense at the end of the day wins championships, and Eagles can make a strong case, at least for one of the teams this year, that can make a run because of their defense. I know their offense, of course, is still clicking. The Packers, of course, losing Christian Watson, I think, was a very low-key big loss for them. He really stretches the field a lot, at least offensively. Jordan Love loves the deep ball. So they're going to rely a lot on their running game. And I know that Josh Jacobs is great and the way that he's been playing this year, but I think that the Eagles defense is going to keen in on the running attack for the Packers, make Jordan Love to throw a lot. And I think that the more that Jordan Love throws a lot, the more it favors for the Eagles. So I'm going to go with the Eagles here to win and to take them on.
Yeah. So Grant, for what you said about, Locke and how much it pained you for the Packers, I could say the same thing about the Eagles being an arch rival. But, I mean, I respect the heck out of them for what they've been able to do. And you know what? I'll say this. I mean, I give a lot of credit for Saquon Barkley, the kind of year that he's had. You know what? I mean, let's just be fair. Saquon would not have had those kind of numbers that he used with the Giants this year. I mean, he wouldn't. I mean, I think everybody's got, and every Giant fan, every Giant hater has just got to put that out there, that he would not have had that kind of year if he was with the Giants. I mean, because if you saw a lot of some of his runs this year, what was he able to do? He was able to go in between tackles. He couldn't do that with the Giants' offensive line.
Well, offensive line struggles is definitely the biggest issue.
Right, but look how great the offensive line of the Eagles is. So that's
what I'm saying. Yeah,
right.
I'm saying that the offensive line is stronger.
Right, exactly. So, but I mean, Giant haters just don't get that. So, I mean, they just want to pick on the organization, and I think it was smart for the Eagles to actually rest him, because you don't want to risk losing him. I mean, that changes a big dynamic of your offense. Now, as far as this game goes, I am taking the Eagles minus 4.5. For the concern that we've got about Jalen Hurts' injury, the Christian Watson injury is a massive blow to the Packers' offense.
Agreed.
And so I think that that can almost be a bigger blow than the effect with Hurts, because if you do end up having to go with either a McKee or a Kenny Pickett, you just hand it off to Saquon and he'll run it down your throats. That's what he'll be able to do. Mm-hmm. But I actually think, I will say this, though. I think this game is going to be close, but I think at the end of the day, I think in the fourth quarter, the Eagles will break this one open. And I think that the raucous crowd there in Philadelphia, and I will say this too, maybe as a bold take, I think of the 12 teams that are playing on this wild card weekend, there is no team more than the Philadelphia Eagles that needs to win this weekend. I think because of what happened last year, I think there's a ton of pressure on them this year to make a deep run. And if they get one and done, then the talk's going to be out there. It probably won't happen, but Nick Sirianni will be on the true hot seat going into next season. So I think of all the teams, I think he's the one that's under the most pressure this year, at least in this round. But I think I think they do get it done because I think this is a very favorable matchup too. The other problem that the Packers got is they can't rush the quarterback. And against this kind of team, you need to be able to do that and be able to get to her, especially if he's not 100%, but he should be going if he is playing. But long story short, I'm going to lay the 4.5. I'm going to take the Eagles to win in advance down there at Lincoln Financial. The Sunday Nighter, Ben, a Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, Melissa Stark special on NBC. Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders take on Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And at Raymond James, the Bucs are a field goal favorite.
Yeah, so when I look at all the matches for this weekend, I don't know if you guys agree or not, this might be the more in terms of fun matchups, in terms of exciting matchups, I think this could be the one. I mean, you have Jaden Daniels, a rookie quarterback that's been absolutely tearing it off all year, against Baker Mayfield, who has been one of the better quarterbacks the whole entire season. And, of course, the way that the Bucs played last year, he got the team to the playoffs and was with, points away from potentially being the Lions last year in the divisional round. So the Bucs are obviously been great all year. The Commanders obviously been great all year. The biggest difference, though, to me is it's going to come down to the defense. And I trust the Bucs defense with Todd Bowles being able to get after Jaden Daniels more than I trust the Commanders defensively to get after Baker Mayfield. Another matchup to look out for, and hopefully he'll play, is Marcus Lattimore against Mike Evans. Of course, they've had so much beef in the past, and it looks like Marcus Lattimore is going to be able to play after the injury that he suffered the last couple weeks here. And congratulations once again to Mike Evans for breaking that 1,000-yard record last week. Of course, that was a massive thing, so shout out to Mike for that. But regardless of that being said, I love the Bucs here at -3 here. They're at home. They play really well at home. And I know that Jaden Daniels, the Commanders, have been a great team, but they're a really young team. The Bucs obviously were just in the playoffs last year, so I like the Bucs here to take the money.
Pat?
Drop the lock.
Whoa.
I will be locking an underdog this week when I pick the to go to Tampa Bay and rip that defense apart. Jaden Daniels, baby. Jaden Daniels. He is going to pull what Stroud pulled last year, and he is going to demolish a pretty solid team in the first round. Remember, I don't know if you guys remember what Stroud did last year. He hung 45 on the Browns. I think Jaden Daniels is going to walk in there and drop at least 30 on this Bucs defense. I think he's going to rip them to shreds. And I think the Bucs defense is injured. I think Washington's been hot. Also, the Bucs schedule, they've won 6 of their last 7. Of those 6 wins, 2 are against the Panthers, 1 against the Giants, 1 against the Raiders, 1 against the Saints, and they lost to the Cowboys. So that 6 of last 7 stretch isn't impressive because they didn't play any good teams. Like I am not sold on this Bucs team yet. I think they've had a cakewalk end of the year schedule, and I think once they play the Commanders, the Commanders will get that week 1 revenge they've been waiting on, and I think they're going to smack them up.
So I'm just reading here something I mentioned in an earlier game. Rookie quarterback going on the road in the playoffs. Oh wait. Yeah, I'm not putting that into notion here. I can't believe I'm saying this. I 1,000% agree with Pat. I am also taking the Commanders to win this game. He pretty much echoed everything I was going to say. This Bucs defense does not do well against the pass. And I think Jaden Daniels is going to go in there and he's going to light up this defense. I mean, yeah, it's a thing, but like you said, the Bucs have been very inconsistent. I mean, what Bucs team am I getting? Am I getting the team that gave up 40 to the Chargers, or am I getting the team that poured 48 on the Panthers? What team am I getting there? I know what I'm getting with the Commanders. I'm getting a team that's red hot going into the playoffs. We thought that they were falling apart, and they were for about a 2-month stretch there. But since that game against the Eagles, that is what has allowed them to take off and soar. I think that goes in. I think that factors in. I think they continue it here. And even if I don't take them on the money line, and I will take them on the money line, but if I wasn't, I even could see this being a 1 or a 2 point game. But I will take them on the money line, and I will take the Commanders to go in there and pull it off and advance. Nick?
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think the Commanders are going to win also in an upset. I think that they're the better team. I think Jaden Daniels is the better quarterback. Let me be clear, though. Baker Mayfield has had an incredible year. He's earned all his incentives. There were two incentives that stood out to me in Week 18. One was Geno Smith getting his, I think, $6 million in incentives, hitting the yardage, getting the victory, and I think the touchdowns, too. I think that was another. And then Baker hitting his incentives, I think, on touchdowns and yards. And also, I think that was a little risky, even though Mike Evans deserved it in every way, shape, or form. That was a little risky putting Mike Evans in the fire, getting him the yardage and the necessary to get it. But again, well earned. But I just think the Commanders are much more on the momentum side of things. Would I be upset if the Bucs won? No. But I think everyone's ready to see Jaden Daniels like really soar and take off and see if he can make his way all the way through the playoffs and see what happens. So I have the Commanders in the upset.
Zan?
Yeah, I think this is probably going to be the best game of the entire weekend. I actually like a Bucs no cover here. I think it's going to be a very, very high scoring affair. And I actually have a final score prediction for you guys. It's going to be 22-20 Tampa in overtime.
No.
Oh.
So a lower scoring game.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, how do we get to 22-20 in overtime? Safety?
There's going to be some weird stuff.
Okay.
Well, wait a minute. Can't you win on the first possession on a safety, technically?
Yeah, you technically can, yeah.
If you predict that, Zan, I'm flying to Chicago.
I'll tell you right now, I'm clipping that out and making that go everywhere if that happened.
That'll be a
Start
very
asking Sam
viral
for the lotto numbers if that ever happened.
early nominee for viral clip of the year.
Considering that I did go undefeated straight up on NFL picks during 2 separate weeks, anything is possible. So
Hey, you killed it this year.
yeah, I really did.
Kanan.
I think this is an awesome QB matchup. This is going to be a good close game. Baker Mayfield, he's been having a resurgence. Love to see that. But with that being said, Jaden Daniels is playing out of his mind. For a rookie, I think he got the record for rushing yards at like 891 and completion percentage around like 71%.
Yeah, that sounds right. Mm-hmm.
So for
Both of those
him to
numbers
do
are right.
that as a rookie and just like show out the way he has, I think he's going to go up against the Bucs and they're going to win, but I don't think they're going to cover.
All right, so you're sticking with me on the Bucs no cover train. There we go. Okay.
Anthony, what do you have?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with a lot of you guys. You guys are comparing Jaden Daniels to C.J. Stroud, and yeah, Jaden Daniels is playing just as good, if not better than what C.J. Stroud did last year. But when C.J. Stroud won that playoff game, he was the home team. He didn't have to go on the road. And they also went up against Joe Flacco, and old Joe Flacco, not a Baker Mayfield that threw 41 touchdowns. So I think this is going to be a shootout. I don't trust neither of these teams' defenses, but I just think being a rookie quarterback on the road against a Baker Mayfield who already has 2 playoff wins. He's already been here and done this before. So I think Baker Mayfield in a shootout is going to be him and Mike Evans are going to have the last drive. They're going to have the ball last. So give me the Buccaneers to win and cover.
Yeah, they're dogs, as we can hear it.
By the way, he's not the lone wolf. So that doesn't work. Grant, what do you have?
I was considering making this my lock of the week between this game or last game, and I picked last game. But I'm gonna say that experience outweighs the rookie phenom, and I think the Bucs will win and cover.
So what 3 of us have here in an outright upset with Jaden Daniels and the Commanders winning, he would become only the second rookie quarterback to win a game as an underdog of 3 points or more in the wild card round. Let me ask Nick. Nick will know. Who was the only QB to win a game as only rookie quarterback to win a game as an underdog of 3 points or more in the wild card round?
Wait, are you saying this is the Jets quarterback? I have no idea, actually.
I think I might know it, but I actually
Nick wants to phone a friend. Who is it?
I'll take a stab at it. Is it Mark Sanchez?
It is Mark.
Yeah,
Sanchez.
right? That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
2009 at the Chargers.
Let's go.
I wasn't
What a
sure.
guy.
I wasn't sure if it was that simple because that's the only name I could pull out of my head.
It was
That's
either Mark Sanchez or Chad Pennington, and I got
Oh
it right.
God, Chad Pennington.
No, I don't think he made the playoffs as a rookie, so that wouldn't count. But we'll see if Jaden Daniels joins that exclusive company there on Sunday. All right, still a lot of things we don't know as we go into this Monday night game, guys. As of this recording, the game is still at SoFi Stadium, but keep that in mind when we make this pick. Grant, Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Lisa Salters, and Laura Rutledge on ESPN and ABC as the 14-3 Minnesota Vikings take on the Los Angeles Rams, and the Vikings are laying 1.5.
Why is this line so small? Why? I mean, the Vikings.
The Rams were one of the best teams. They were really good to end the year.
I agree that the Rams are good, but the Vikings are 14-3, and the Rams are 10-6.
Yeah, but
10-7.
I would throw the records out here to be honest, though.
Okay. Well, still, I don't. I think this line should be a little bit bigger, but I mean, I like the Vikings to win and cover here. It's just they have such a powerhouses on offense, and they've done great on defense. I don't need to say any more. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. So
This line actually did open at 2.5, and it got bet down. So they did try to open this line higher. And apparently, I've even seen in some places it's at 1 now. So this line's getting close.
Which is so weird. It's so weird. And something to add, I know it's quite not my turn yet, but even if this game does get moved to Arizona, the environment is still the same. There's still the retractable roof and everything. So even though the city may be different, the environment in terms of the surface that these two teams are going to play on is identical. So that's even the more bizarre part, in my opinion. So
Fair point there. Ben, what do you have here?
Yeah, I know the Vikings obviously have had a really good year this year. No knock to them whatsoever. Their defense obviously has been great under Brian Flores. Sam Darnold, of course, said a certain type of year. But am I really going to trust Sam Darnold to go on the road and a playoff game where I feel like he hasn't been in the playoffs? I don't even know ever, honestly. Against Matt Stafford, who's obviously won a Super Bowl in the past. He's had a ton of experience, and he has very similar complement in terms of weapons. I know a lot of people are talking about the weapons, but you look at the weapons on the other side. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are obviously close enough to where the Vikings' weapons are. I mean, I would say the Vikings probably have the better weapons, but they're very complementary, at least in terms of each one. So with that being said, I think that the Rams are going to win via upset. I think the defense, is going to be able to hold them to enough specifically. And I also think too, and I know that this is kind of, side point to this, but I think they'll be playing really, really hard for the city now, kind of given kind of what's going on. So, I mean, regardless if they, are playing for the city more or not, I still would pick the Rams. I just think the Rams are kind of a dark horse, to be honest, to look out for this year in the NFC. And I just trust Matt Stafford to win a playoff game over Sam Darnold. No knock to Sam Darnold, but I trust him more in that case.
Fair point there, too. Pat?
This one is as tough as the line is for me, honestly. I don't have a good read on this game at all right now. I am going to go with the Rams because of Stafford's playoff experience. The fact that the Vikings I hate to say it because they've proven time and time again that they're not, but they just feel like the most fraud playoff team ever. I mean, I just don't know how this roster competes in the playoffs compared to some of these other teams. The Rams have looked so good. I think they ended the season, let me confirm, but yeah, they ended the season with a really solid record. Like their last 10 games of the season, I think they were like 7-3 or something like that. So they ended the season really hot. They beat really good teams. They beat Buffalo. I just think when it comes down to it, the playoff experience will be the key factor in this game, even though the Vikings defense has looked great, and I think the Rams will edge them out.
Yeah, this is the toughest game to pick of the 6. But see, I'm still struggling to this very moment. You know what this game, though, is? This is the Sam Darnold money game, meaning that if he goes there, he plays very, very well. limits mistakes, and he guides them to a win, this will help propel him to a big time contract that he'll get, and it should be with the Vikings because he fits in with them so well.
I agree.
I'm gonna trend towards the Vikings for two reasons though, because the one thing the Rams have a tough time doing is stopping tight ends, and the Vikings have two of them with Addison and T.J. Hawkinson, who was not there when these two met at SoFi Stadium back in Week 8. So that's number one, and I'm going to say this number two, and it's somebody whose name will be in the head coaching discussion in the offseason. Brian Flores' defense. Just like I don't like to go against Mike Tomlin, I usually try not going against a Brian Flores defense. I think those two make a big difference. I think this game is going to be very entertaining. It's going to be emotional. And I think Sam Darnold and the Vikings eke out a win on the road, whether that's at SoFi or at State Farm Stadium. So I will lay the 1.5 and take the Vikings to advance. Nick?
So I guess I'm the only one who's going to actually scream it. The Vikings are frauds. Like, I'm just going to say it right now. They're absolutely complete frauds after what they pulled in Week 18. The red zone efficiency, which no one has brought up either, was awful in that game against the Lions. And the Lions are not even full defensively. Like, that scared me last week, that the Lions, who are mostly winning games by outscoring people, they actually played defense and stopped the Vikings multiple times. Now, what I will say, it was really out of the ordinary, the amount of times O'Connell went for fourth down in the red zone. Like, that was very abnormal, the amount of times. That's not his game. That's really not his game at all.
He was trying to copy the Dan Campbell situation, I think.
Yeah, and look what happened. It was a complete disaster. Yeah, so the Vikings are frauds. Sam Darnold looked awful with forced pressure, and people have been saying that all year. When Sam is under forced pressure, he holds the ball too long, and that's a big issue for Sam Darnold, holding the ball too long. And I think the Rams are going to follow that same strategy and force him to throw the football faster, and it becomes a disaster when he can't do it. So I like the Rams outright, and I think they might win this by a touchdown, at least. I think. I just don't trust the Vikings after what happened. Throw 14 wins out the window. It's the playoffs at this point. They got to come in and play their best football, and I just think Stafford's more experienced.
Zan?
I like the Vikings for one simple reason and one simple reason only. And I feel that this is something that's yet to be said. Yeah, I understand they lost to Detroit and they lost what would have been the NFC North Championship in a chance for home field advantage throughout the playoffs. But I feel like discounting one really, really bad performance, in my personal opinion, shouldn't be discounting an entire season. I think Minnesota is the better team. I think the Rams have played in a weak division all year. That's to me the main reason why they even got in the playoffs to begin with. That's the main reason why they won the NFC West. And Minnesota is going to have over a week to figure out what they did wrong, how they're going to come back, how they're going to lick their wounds, and how they're going to take out all their frustration on the Rams. Give me the Vikings to win this game on the road, 28-24, and cover the spread.
By the way, I just want to say one thing. I don't think it's discounting one performance. That was a huge game that they were playing for the number one overall seed. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's discounting performance. It's a massive game that they really needed to win for the number one overall seed, and they just were they fell under the pressure.
I agree to a certain extent, but I don't agree, because every single team in the NFL has simply one bad game, and that's exactly it. If that game was in Minnesota and they played that way, I feel like I would have a different opinion. But it's been tough to go into Ford Field all year and win. So was I surprised that they were blown out? Yeah, but was I surprised that they lost? Absolutely not. So that's kind of where I sit in that. I agree with you to a certain extent, but I also disagree with you in other aspects.
They were due for a letdown. It was just the opponent that they had. Of course, it was unfortunate the way it happened.
I just think people were expecting a closer game.
I also think that maybe we could also say too, maybe the Vikings and the Lions though are really that dangerous. I mean, the defensive injuries have been something, but the one thing though about the Lions defense, it's been their secondary that's been the biggest problem. It's not been really just their front their defensive line. It's really more the secondary that can get exposed. And obviously, if you're playing goal line football, you're going to be playing more on the line than you are going to be with the secondary there.
Well, it also scares me that the Vikings can't do stuff in the red zone. Like that was a scary performance in the red zone. Like
that is legitimate, especially in the playoffs when you know what, if you're settling for field goals versus touchdowns, that is fair. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Kanan, what do you have?
So with the Rams, I think they haven't really been utilizing Kupp as often as they should be the last couple games. Like he hasn't really been getting the touches, so that kind of seems weird to me. You want to give him the ball later in the season, get him in stride. So I'm not really sure about that. But if you look at the Vikings, they've been unbelievable this season. And if you compare Darnold's stats to the MVP conversation, I'm not sure about his completion percentage or his turnovers, but his yards and touchdowns are pretty close. So I'm going to lock down the Rams for this one, and they're going to.
Wow.
I think they're going to beat them a lot.
All right, Anthony, the last pick of Wild Card Weekend is yours.
Yeah, we know unless if you're Josh Allen, you're not going to be able to go in Ford Field and beat the Detroit Lions. So I'm not going to be that upset by the Vikings. But, I tend to be a guy that likes to look ahead and kind of see, what kind of, potential playoff matchups we're going to get in. The way this Rams team has been playing, I always thought, whoever they're going to get matched up with first as their home team, I think they're going to win. But after what happened last week with the Vikings being embarrassed on national television in front of, all of America, everybody watching potentially maybe the biggest game of the entire regular season for the number 1 seed, and for the Minnesota Vikings to look so flat and lay an egg, and for their defense that was so good all season to play so bad, for Sam Darnold who played so good all season to play so bad, I think that game's going to motivate them. And now, even though I was predicting that I was going to be picking the Rams in the wild card weekend for the last 3-4 weeks, I think that the way that the Vikings need to have a bounce back game changed my direction on this. I think Sam Darnold's going to come back and knowing that if he wins this game, this changes a lot of the direction on the future of the Vikings. I mean, I feel like if they lose this game, it makes a lot of sense to keep J.J. McCarthy. If Sam Darnold goes out there and wins, I mean, we've seen Jordan Love last year get $55 million per year after getting a playoff win. So Sam Darnold only being 1 year older than Jordan Love, if he goes out there and get a playoff win, why can't he get $55 million a year too? So I think he knows that. I think the team knows that. They're going to be highly motivated after last week. And I think Matthew Stafford can tend to turn the ball over. Cooper Kupp hasn't looked the same. I'm not sure if it's age or injury, but he hasn't looked the same this season. So give me the Minnesota Vikings to win and cover.
And we have a true 50-50 split for the Monday Night Football playoff matchup. That's sick.
Yeah, it's not really surprising, to be fair.
That's pretty sick. I can't lie. I mean, this game felt like a true, it feels like a true 50-50. I know. I think Kanan, you locked the Rams, I think, right? So
the Vikings.
The Vikings.
Yep.
You locked the Vikings, but yeah. So you locked the Vikings, but honestly, I think that's very ballsy of you because I don't have a good read on this game, honestly, and this is a tough one for me, and I like that this game was truly split between us because I think it really should have been.
I find that take interesting, though, by the way, from Anthony about going out and getting quarterback. I don't know if Sam Darnold's worth $55 million out on the market. First of all, I think Jordan Love has double talent or triple talent compared to Sam Darnold, whatever it will be. Can he get money? If he has a big playoff victory, he will get substantial money on the market because there'll be a desperate team that will pay him anyway.
Let me close out with two things. Number one on that, I think he's worth $55 million to the Vikings.
Agree.
The team, I think, to the Vikings. And number two, what I do hope in that game Monday night is that it's a true entertaining game, and hopefully for the people of Los Angeles and Pasadena and where else who are suffering, that at least for a couple of hours will distract them and hopefully provide some entertainment while it will still be very raw after the fires of the past week.
By the way, you heard what Campbell said at the end of the game. Also, I hope we see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. We'll see.
Certainly possible. That would be
epic. That would be epic.
That would be not only cool, number one, but number two, one of the toughest tickets for a would-be championship game in a very, very, very long time.
I don't know if you saw also, at least for the Lions-Vikings game, did you see that the Lions tried to file a complaint with the NFL because the Vikings that tried to buy 2 million tickets
Yes,
or
yes.
whatever.
Not 2 million tickets, but 2 million in
$2 million.
tickets. Yes.
Yeah, $2 million of tickets. And I'm like, this is the most bogus thing in the world. If anyone wants to buy the tickets, just let them buy the tickets. Shouldn't matter.
We could spend hours on that.
That's a interesting topic to talk about, to say the least. One thing I did want to bring up about this Vikings-Rams matchup before we went away, I think one of the key matchups of this game is going to be Cam Robinson versus Jared Verse. Jared Verse has been ripping offensive lines apart this year. He is by far the best rookie in my opinion, and I thought he really had the potential to fill that Aaron Donald role when he got drafted. He's done that so much more than I would have thought in his rookie year. He's one of the top, I think statistically, one of the top 5 pass rushers. Him, TJ Watt, and Dexter Lawrence are the only 3 defensive linemen that have over an 80 PFF pass rush and run defense grade. So he is just elite on all cylinders, and I think him going against a guy that they traded for mid-season who's been playing very well in Cam Robinson is going to be a very big matchup, especially on that blind side of the quarterback. I think that's going to dictate a lot in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be good. We're officially in the playoff mode for the NFL, which means the fun football comes out. All the crappy teams go away finally, and we enjoy the playoffs. It's no longer Super Wild Card Weekend. It's Wild Card Weekend because the NFL's petty. But looking forward to the Wild Card Weekend. Enjoy all the matchups. Nothing really changes as we work our way through the NFL playoffs. We will do each round. It'll just be less games and less games to the point we work our way down to the Super Bowl, which we will do a live stream probably the day before. It's either Friday or Saturday. We usually do it before the big game on Sunday, which is February 9th, I think, this year.
Yeah. Are we able to get the Super Bowl in playback or no?
Well, there's no NFL right now in playback. It's just college football. Trust me, that would be fun if that were the case. But yeah, so we'll look forward to it. Make sure you follow the show on social media at TFB Forecast ETB on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Even if we have from this recording 10 days left of TikTok, who knows? I heard Kevin O'Leary might be actually trying to buy TikTok and bring it to the U.S. We'll see if that actually happens. Make sure you follow us on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. 2 away from 900 subscribers. Trying to get to that all-important 1,000 to really help and grow our channel. So please like and subscribe to our channel as well. And if you can't listen on the video side, listen to the Football Forecast wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple, Acast, every other audio platform. YouTube Premium, which has audio as well, because I seem to always forget that. So make sure you go check that out as well. And like I said, Football Forecast presented by Playback. We are doing a college football stream, Ohio State, Texas, the semifinal, which is going to be on Friday. Coverage starts 7:15 p.m. Eastern time. So please join our guys over there who will be doing a live watch along. Mr. Ohio State fan on the bottom left there. So go enjoy that as well. Playback.tv/ETB Network. Come join our stream and check us out. Whew. Okay. I think I'm out of breath now.
Oh, last thing, you have to reveal who won the regular season picks competition.
Yeah.
You're right. See, he's right, Johnny. I almost did forget that before we went off. All right. So final standings, because we don't include the playoffs. So Zan ended up making a comeback, 347 to lead the way. Myself and Grant had 343 to finish tied for second. Anthony had 340. Let's see. Nick D had 338. Who else? Ben, you had 321. And Pat, I'll call yours a wash for now because we didn't have the picks for.
I didn't make my picks for like the last 2 weeks of the season, something like that. So I'm at a weird 285 right now. So
yes.
Yeah, I was just to say I think I would have finished around 325, 330, give or take.
You would have been right up there at the top.
I think I just would have been in a decent range, nothing crazy.
Yeah, you might have lost to me. You might have lost to me by a couple.
Oh, this guy.
But by the way, like these rules are ending this year. We're gonna have some rule changes for next year. So just looking forward to the new year. But we had some fun. Don't worry, we're not going anywhere. We're coming back next NFL season as well. So don't worry about that. But it was a fun year tracking the picks, and we'll keep doing it during the playoffs and the Super Bowl, and it's been fun.
Yeah.
So this is the most people we've had in quite a while, too.
I just want to say, shout out Kanan, man. First episode with us and dropping one of the ballsiest locks of the week I think I've seen all year. I love that. First episode.
Well, you guys stole my Washington lock. I didn't want to be like the rest of you. So.
No. Seriously, though, I love that. I love the thought process of coming in with a statement, locking a team like the Vikings in such a close game. I love it.
Yeah, and last.
We just got some breaking news, by the way. So, of course, the Vikings-Rams game has been talked about moving. It is going to be moving. Just broke just now.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, he's right.
We're going to Phoenix.
Yep.
Can I unlock it?
What?
I'm kidding. I'm joking. I asked if I can unlock.
You know what? I think that's a perfect way to go out.
Yeah.
So we don't have to wait.
Hold on. I got to say one last thing, though, because I forgot. Because Anthony and Kanan will be doing our off-season football forecast show as well right after the Super Bowl. Well, we'll do one more show because we usually do a year in review. And then they will take over all the way through the off-season until we come back for our football forecast preview show next season. So
You
same
guys are
day.
gonna hold it down. Good luck.
Oh yeah, can't wait for that one.
So
I think they only have a couple of things to talk about, so I think they're
well, between the Bears and the Jets and the Raiders and
well, so right now 3 GM openings and 6 head coach openings, and that's as of now.
Speaking of head coach openings, the Lions have declined the Patriots to interview with Aaron Glenn. He will instead
That's all
interview with like the 6 other teams that requested.
okay.
Wow.
They're not.
Vrabel and Ben Johnson will be fine.
All right. We're going to stop rambling now because we are a little bit over here. So for everyone here at the Empty the Bench Podcast Network, go enjoy NFL Wildcard Weekend. We will be back for the next round. So until then, have a good day, everybody. We will see you next week.
Good stuff.
Take care.